everybody. Welcome to Soulmates and Suitcases. My name is Lisa Brearley. I'm here with my amazing husband, Scott Brearley. You have come across episode 37, and we're here with an amazing guest. Scott and I are actually in two different parts of the world right now, but we are so excited to have someone from South America right now. This is our first, I believe. And we are excited to welcome Ana Pashyanti. I hope I got her last name right. Pashyanti. Very pretty. So welcome, Ana. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I just love being with the two of you because you have such a powerful uh dynamic energy, the two of you together, just really inspiring. So it's my pleasure.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Appreciate that very much. And just before the show, we were talking a little bit about Anna's backyard, what's right behind her. It's so awesome. And so tell us a little bit, Anna, about how you made your way to South America and where you are and why you chose that beautiful place.
Yeah, so I'm in Paraguay. That's the in the very center of South America. We're completely landlocked, no oceans, but we do have a lot of rivers coming down from the Amazon and from the Andes. And so it's a very kind of a meeting of the rivers. And where I am, it's a kind of a small mountain range covered in forest. And so this was the spot I definitely wanted to be in. I wanted to be here before I even came here. And basically, I came all the way from Germany, which is where I was living for many years before this. And it was getting cold and gray up there, and there was a lot of bureaucracy. And I was renewing my visa every 2 years. It was on the material level, it was time to leave. And also, kind of on the emotional, spiritual level, it was also time to leave. So, those two things joined together and really pulled me down here because the bureaucracy is much easier to deal with. And, I built a little cottage here. There's not a lot of rules to kind of stifle my creativity with building. So, and basically, I just wanted to live in nature quietly, peacefully, and just be fed by nature, my soul being fed by nature. And so I made my way down here a few years ago without having that be part of my life plan. It just happened. And I'm so grateful I did because ever since I wake up in the jungle every morning, I'm grateful to wake up. And that wasn't always the case in my life. So I so notice the difference and I so appreciate just being in nature. And I think every time we have a little bit of time in nature, I think, we really just take a deep breath. And for me, the last few years here have been taking a deep breath, just I've arrived. Yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I stepped out today. I'm on the east coast of Canada right now, and I stepped out in the backyard and I'm like, I'm going to take in some of this beautiful fresh air because I'm on an island. So lots of beautiful fresh air. And I was gifted. I'll say I was gifted with this, that I was gifted a little tiny baby dragonfly that was actually jumping along the grass, trying to take off. And I was like, oh. Thank you. So
Yeah.
it's those things, right, that you get to experience like when you're out in nature. And I know I was watching Scott
Yeah.
today take his dogs out. He's in mid part of Canada, taking them out for a walk in the park.
Actually, pretty close to
Yeah. It's just
Ohio.
so. Are you close to Ohio? That's funny. Yeah, that's where I'm
Yeah.
from. Yeah.
There you are.
Cool.
So do you
Yeah.
take those opportunities to go out into your jungle? Like, is it safe for you to go out in there, I guess, and be with
Yes. 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 So we do have a few spiders and snakes that can be, a problem. So you do have to watch your step. If there's a big pile of leaves, you don't want to rummage through there without gloves. I mean, I work a lot outside preparing places to have orchards, to plant things, to plant trees, to plant, vegetables and things. So I am working a lot in the yard in the yard. I don't know if it's the yard, but working a lot out here in the forest. And I did make the mistake once of rummaging through the leaves on the ground without gloves, and I did get a giant spider hanging from my finger. So that was painful. Um, I learned my lesson. And so yes, the nature is not only peaceful, she's also formidable. She's,
Mm.
you have to respect her.
That's for sure. That's for sure. Um, oh, I thought you were going to say something, Scott. So when when you arrived in South America, what was like one of the first things that was on your mind that you wanted to do when you got there?
I just wanted to be here,
Yeah.
you know. I love traveling. I love exploring new places. But when I got here, I really just felt at home.
Mm.
So one thing I love to do is actually to kind of take a road trip because living in Europe for so many years, I got used to kind of smaller spaces. You know, the distance between places is not so big, Things are more compact. You have valleys in between the mountains that feel like they're far away, but really they're not. And so things are closer together. And so when I got back here, back on the Western Hemisphere, I felt at home again because you have the wide open landscapes, you have the horizon out in the distance, and you can just take a road trip. You got your car, you maybe put the radio on, and all of a sudden you just feel so much freedom. I think that was the main reason, if I had to give one word, the main reason why I came here was to feel that sense of freedom.
Mm. And as you described, also free from some of those confinements of the Western society or having to follow all these rules or expectations in order to jump through the hoops.
Yes, and also I mean, one of the kind of side effects of traveling also is the changes that happen in your mind. And I'm sure you've experienced the same thing. Like
Percent.
when I first, not maybe not the first time, but a big change came when I moved to actually Germany. I've been going here and there, but Germany I was stuck there for a while for many reasons. But when I first arrived there, all of a sudden, I didn't have what I was used to. I didn't have the comforts of my contacts, friends and family. When I started to get sick, I didn't have a doctor to go to. And so that was the beginning of what I would call my mental deprogramming,
Mm.
because it sounds kind of serious and official, but it was really just moving to a new place, not knowing anyone. I didn't know where to find a doctor or anything or how the health system worked. And I all of a sudden, I had a few kind of smaller health issues. I was like, huh, what am I going to do? And so then I did my own research. And then I was like, oh, actually, now I see I can heal some of these things myself, you
Yeah.
know, from my kitchen cabinets, a few things here and there. And wow, it really works. Amazing. Why don't I see what's going on with this issue I have with my eye or, with my skin and I'll try things. And that literally was the start, I would say, of almost my spiritual awakening, even though it was kind of before the actual, meditation experiences that really started my path of questioning reality. But even before then is when I started to deprogram my mind because I was seeing things differently. I didn't have the comforts of home that I was used to. And all of a sudden I realized, starting with the whole health system, was that wow, there are some things that we haven't been taught. Like my kitchen cabinet can heal a lot of issues that I have. And oh, wow, if I just experiment with myself, try eating different things, try not using chemicals on my skin, stop using shampoo and use egg yolks instead. I mean, all of these kind of fun little things we can tweak. And wow, it really works. That's possible. And my mind was blown, just completely cracked open. And then that moved from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And the next thing I know, I'm learning about the how the body works down to the quantum level. And where does that lead me to? That leads me to consciousness. And then that's the whole rest of my life. So it's just you don't have to travel to get there, but traveling really helps that. If you kind of are feeling stuck in a groove, go to someplace new.
100%.
Oh, totally. And so I guess this understanding for you of kind of like how I like to look at it is peeling back some layers. That's kind of like how I look at it because to me, we are born perfect. We are born perfect. And over the years, we're layered with other people or society's expectations or thoughts of how we should be. And then our job now, as we age or get older, is to peel back those layers. So it sounds like that's what you were doing, Anna.
Yeah, exactly. The cultural conditioning, all of those belief systems, and beliefs about ourselves and about everything. Yes, it's so true. And it's such a just astonishing experience because what we believe is really our whole world. And then when our beliefs change and we see the world differently, I mean, it's a completely new video game we're in then, the game changes. It's just, there's no way to make your reality as different as changing your beliefs and your perspective.
And it's like how you were sharing, it starts with small little baby steps like that we talk about all the time. And like back, I think it was 5 years ago, maybe six, I sold my house in Vancouver where I've lived and did the grind, and I moved up to this little town of 1,800 people. And I did drive back and forth to the city to work every week and lived in a camper. Then I went and did this course and I met Lisa. So that kind of opened things up even more. And 6 months later, I stopped working. I haven't worked since. I mean, I've worked, but not the traditional sense of work. And if you had have even said that at the beginning, I probably wouldn't have sold my house and moved because I would have been so stuck with fear. And then fast forward 5 years, my plan was about at the age I am now was to start traveling because my debt would be paid down a bit and yada yada. And but with meeting Lisa, it got started 4 or 5 years early. And then now with the new game plan we got with just showing up to life and putting positive out there, it's transformed 5 years early again because of what has just transpired. Transpired.
It's
I can't even
fire.
say that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's really learning how to get out of the way, but stay in the way at the same time. And it's an oxymoron because and putting it into the future of what you want your life to look like. And it took a long time to wrap my head around that. However, then when I started looking back, well, that's what I was doing all the way along. I was looking at negativity in the city, so I was breeding more negativity and breeding more negativity. Well, however, when I broke that cycle and started breeding positivity, life got better and different.
Yeah. Ah, fantastic. I love that. It's the process of empowerment,
Hmm.
really, when you realize, hey, I am in control of my reality to some extent, right?
Yes.
As you said, we also are going to be also surrendering to the greater universe and the greater the whole of all everything that exists and the universe and the divine. And we're going to surrender and kind of go with the divine order of things. But we are such a player in that. We are such a crucial player that we have so much more control over our experience of life than we really thought, than we've been taught. And it's just like what you've been describing is just this process of like feeling more powerful in life, which I think a lot of us need because a lot of us feel powerless, against a lot of things happening. So it's so important. That exactly what you said.
Yeah. So do you touch on this yourself with that course that you are offering and you want to help others sort of work through those blockages in their life or that, seeking more worthiness in their life or that they deserve to have this in their life. So can you tell us more about this course that you're offering?
Sure. Yeah, empowerment is my mission. I picked up on that right away because that is literally my mission right now, is empowering people. So, yes, I'm trained in, various e energetic healing techniques, but I find it super, super, super important now to do a little bit less of that, a little bit more of teaching people how to do it themselves,
Mm.
because we can all do this, you know? So basically the course that I just created, I'm super excited about it because this was about how we can actually influence our own physical health. I know it can be kind of a touchy subject, kind of a taboo sometimes, but honestly, my own experience and other people's experiences that I've helped just all came together into something that at some point I just knew I had to share because um, with your attention and your intentions, you can create so much more healing in your body. You can decipher what your body's trying to tell you. You can listen to the symptoms, what they're saying, not only the physical causes, but also the emotional and energetic causes that are always intermingled and intertwined with that. And so, yes, I believe this did come from my travels originally because I was more self-reliant uh, as far as my health is concerned than I was before then. So knowing that I'm in charge of my health and that it's my responsibility now, and yes, I totally support, when you do need to go to a doctor or to a hospital, that's great. They're good for many things, but we don't need to feel dependent. Like we don't need to feel powerless to feel better ourselves without pills, without chemicals or super high medical bills, right? Like it doesn't have to always be like that. There are some things that we can affect ourselves, and one of them is firstly listening to our bodies. And we don't need to be super psychic or anything, but there are very specific ways we can just listen in, feel what our body is saying, because it may not be using language, but it is speaking to us, in sensations and the feelings of things. And then not only listening, but we can also talk to our bodies as well, which is even more mind-blowing because we can actually tell our bodies what we want it to do, and if you, I guess the reason I made my course is that I put in guided meditations that will take people step by step through it. It's just like, okay, now we're gonna feel, blah blah blah. We're gonna go into our liver. We're gonna go check it out. What is our liver telling us? What does our liver need from us? And it literally works. I mean, people have had incredible results. So I love it. If it's too much for someone, that's fine. But for the people who are ready, um, I think it's super important because it's about empowerment. Exactly like you said, knowing that we have the ability to help ourselves heal, to feel better, not only physically, but emotionally, and mentally. We are in control of our thoughts and yeah, our experience of reality. So it is so priceless to know that we are super powerful.
We are, because it's what comes out of our mouth is the biggest thing that for me anyways, where I needed to start because it was like, oh, I'm stupid. Why do I always do that? It's not, I'm not stupid. It's just happens that way. It's life happens. And when you start changing the words you use, even if you went, oh, that was silly. Why did I do that? Because it's only silly. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's now that I've done a lot of the work and changed quite a bit, and it's like right now I'm around my family and I'm hearing I can't do that. That'll never happen. And it's like, take that out of your language. And then life
Yeah.
can change
So
and start
important.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is. It's about starting, sometimes doing something big like traveling or moving to somewhere big, or it can be something really small and creating a habit, a new habit of that new sort of behavior and how that starts to snowball. You never know. Like we talk about we think sometimes it can be a negative effect when the snowball effect, but it also can be positive. And so you never know where the amazingness that comes from one shift, one little change. And so, even like taking your course, you never know what you're going to hear that one day when you're ready to hear it. And it just like, projects you into this new amazing area in your life, right? So, yeah, it's taking those opportunities and kind of listening to your internal talking. What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, it is so crucial, the amount of things we've said to ourselves, that have not been helpful. I mean, we don't really want to count those, but
Yeah.
but just knowing that we can change it, and it doesn't have to be overnight, we're not going to be perfect always. We can, we might slip into old habits sometimes, but one thing that I find that really helps is not only working with our mind, but also combining like the emotions and the thoughts. For example, when I have a negative thought, I might actually first go into the emotion behind it, what emotion is causing me to say these things about myself, right? Because maybe I really need to heal the emotion first. And then maybe the thoughts really are not going to even be that strong, So it's like, yes, we can work on a thought. Like, for example, I'll just do a basic when I'm just working with my thoughts and I'm like, oh, okay, I've had another thought that was negative, right? I'll just say thank you, because that will disarm the negative thought. We're not going to fight against the negative thought that wants to fight. It's one of those kind of dualistic things. So instead of fighting against it, which usually never works, I just say thank you. Thank you for your service. I'm sure you wanted to help me in some way, right? Because this thought is coming from a part of you probably that wants to help you. Maybe it wants you to put yourself down so that no one else is going to put you down. Maybe it's trying to protect you from, social criticism or something. You never know what it could be. And so firstly, I thank that part of me. I thank that thought. I was like, thank you very much. Thank you for your service. But I am the soul in charge and I have a different plan. My plan is we're going to think that everything is going to be okay.
Mm.
I'm going to think now that I am smart and that I can do it and that I'm learning in this process. And every time something doesn't work out, I'm learning more. That's what I'm going to choose to think now, right? So even just working with the thoughts, starting with a thank you, you know, putting down the weapons. Thank you very much. I'm done. I'm done with you. Changing the program.
Yeah, that
That's a
whole,
really great perspective.
yeah, it's a great way of looking at it. The way you were kind of describing that, and then you said about kind of getting to what's underneath maybe the emotion or what's going on. The big thing, I was talking to a friend the other day, and they were telling me about their uncertainty as to what to do in a choice they were wanting to make, and they made a statement, and I said, "And why is that?" And I just kept asking, and why is that? So it's kind of to get underneath the layers as to what's going on. And um, yeah, it's interesting when you start to really explore why those behaviors are showing up, like the true meaning and where it comes from. Maybe it's like when you're 5 years old and you've taken it all through your life and that's who you're showing up as today. So it's exactly, Anna, what I always think about. It's like, and why? And why? What else is under there?
That is so insightful because you were uncovering that person's limiting beliefs, weren't you?
Yeah.
Right? Like the very basic limiting beliefs that we have, like if I said, well, I'm not going to apply for that job because they're not going to accept me, and like you would say, like, why is that? What does that really mean to you?
Yeah.
Why would that be so bad? All these different questions you can ask yourself to uncover the belief underneath it. And then I would answer something like, oh, well, because then I would feel like a failure,
Yeah.
you know. And then, why is that? What does that mean to you? It's like, oh, well, that would mean that I'm inherently bad, you know. And then it would come down to like what's underneath that, and then you come down to that lowest level, It's like, well, maybe I'm just a bad person, maybe I don't deserve to live, maybe I don't deserve love, whatever this is, that's the underlying belief. You just insightfully targeted right in on that. I mean, that is brilliant.
It's very cool. It's very
It's
cool. Yeah.
it's actually amazing though how many people, when you direct questions like that, they get to a certain point and
It's
then they get stuck and they get stuck. And then you go back a week or two later when you see it's with your friend and you ask them again and they still come up with just the same question till they can peel the layers
Mm,
back a little bit more. And I know asking
sure.
them questions, all it does is open up the computer a little bit so they can, hey, there's a way of looking at it.
Yeah, there's more, like brains are meant to answer questions, aren't they?
Yes.
So it all depends on the question that you're asking. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And then it's kind of strange because in the environment I grew up in the 12 step programs. And you could hear somebody share something for 5 years, and all of a sudden one person shares the exact same thing, but with just a little bit of a twist to it. And it's like, oh, that's what he meant.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sometimes we're just, we're maybe not quite ready yet, and or it has to come from someone else. It could be that also. The story needs to come from someone else.
Yeah,
The information needs to come from someone else, perhaps. And that's why we all have a part to play here, because, what I'm saying may not be the first time anyone said it, for sure not. I've learned from my own teachers, but probably there are people who can only hear it from me and not from the other
100%.
people, right? So we all have a part in sharing what we know in our bones to be true, not just parroting, obviously, but really learning it, embodying it, experiencing the truth of it, and then sharing it to others. I mean, it's priceless. That's only we can do that. There's no AI that can do that. There's
No,
no replacement that can do that. No copy, only we can do that.
Yeah, and one thing I've learned is that over the last few years at least, is that when you open your mouth, and I mean in terms of sharing and being vulnerable and sharing your worries or sharing your fears or sharing any stories, is that it allows other people. It gives the space for other people to share as well. And so I was able to witness this example this morning. I called my dad, and my dad just last week received a diagnosis of cancer. And so he was at it's called Knights of Columbus meeting today, and he was able to stand up and share what was going on with him. And all of a sudden, another gentleman was sharing his experience of his challenge, and another one was sharing theirs. And it was like, it's just, when you stand up to be brave and share, it does. It opens up this kind of a place to accept love and a place to receive love and a place to, offer other people to know that you're not alone as well. So it was really cool to hear my dad share that today. And that's what you're talking about, right? Being able to, share yourself, share your true self.
Yeah, just to be vulnerable, and just share who you are exactly. Because yeah, what you're describing is the feeling of connection, right? Because we don't have to always put up those walls and the facades and try to look strong and perfect. Um, it's it's really feeling our true connection, because that's what they tell someone who's looking for a relationship. You can't connect with someone if they don't see the real you,
Yeah.
right? So the more of the real you show, the more the people who come around you will get to know the real you, and they will start to really love and like the real you. And then you will truly feel supported and loved and liked. You won't feel like people just like you for this and that. They only like you because you're this way to them.
Yeah.
They literally, the more you show, the more they can truly accept and love.
Exactly, exactly. I hear a lot of um uh I guess words coming out of people's mouths about, the whole I wish they would do this and I wish they and like that sort of things come out of their mouth and they get so frustrated. And one thing that I've learned is that it does come from inside, and when you can look inside, it's like what flows over from you can then flow into other people, and then what you are, you attract. So it's like this, to me, it's a simple way of looking at it, I guess, is that I realized this a few years ago as well with my own children. It's like the only way I can really show up for them is to take care of me. And so that's been kind of one of the big awarenesses, right? To take care of my health and my mental well-being, and and that way I'm able to extend myself to help them and support them and in their growth and that sort of thing as well.
100%, 100%, and it goes back to the empowerment as well. We really have a lot more say over our experience here than we think. And, it is good to have discernment when we want to say, okay, well, that's what's happening out there. I don't prefer that. I prefer something else. And I'm going to work towards that other thing. Maybe I don't prefer to see the wars around the world. So I prefer peace and I'm going to work towards peace. And importantly, just like you said, I'm going to cultivate peace within because it does flow out of us. It does have an effect on the entire existence. We are so connected on a fundamental level. We know when we start to look into that, we start to look at, what is reality, what is behind everything. And we are so connected. We are so all one, literally, that every change we make in ourselves literally does ripple out to everywhere. And so we can have such a profound effect on our families, on our towns, on our planets, and beyond. We can have such a profound effect just by sitting in our living room and doing the inner work and feeling empowered, radiating that light of our true selves out that is unlimited and connected to the source of all things, and just radiating that out. And like you mentioned, kind of the filters that get kind of put onto us as we grow up, like cultural conditioning and things like that. Just letting those layers dissolve with the inner work, with the awareness. Just doing that alone means you are affecting the planet on such a positive level that you really cannot comprehend the positive impact that you're having. And I even notice when I'm just maybe having a little breakthrough, just a little bit of realization, oh wow, I guess I'm not going to behave that way anymore. Okay. Yeah, I guess maybe I shouldn't be a know-it-all. I should wait for people to ask me questions before I, spout off what I know. Oh, okay, just making a little change, little mindset change, a little awareness shift ripples out. Just the little things, every little thing that we heal, and every time we expand a little bit more into our true selves, it all has such an impact. I mean, we probably won't know what impact we have until we get to the other side.
This summer, I go to, it's called the Sober Rider Pig Roast, and I've gone there for 25 years. And so, of course, there's been people I've had problems with and this and that. And then I didn't go for probably 5 or 6 years because there was stuff just built up. And so I go this year, Lisa and I go, and there's a few people there that we've had little tiffs with that I don't talk to anymore, and which I wish to repair, but not quite repairing. And then all of a sudden, Saturday night, three people show up that they did some pretty nasty stuff to me. And so I get right in my head. I haven't mentioned anything to anybody. I'm walking back to where our campsite is, and my head's going off. And all of a sudden, it's like, I'm sick of this drama. And then all of a sudden, because of the work I've done, and I know that's what it is, this light bulb comes on and goes, what drama, Scott? The only thing that's been created is in between your ears. So there's no drama. Like you're making the drama. And I know that shift has changed almost everything since then because I can take it a way lighter and everything's getting lighter. So it was pretty wild.
Oh, I love that. See, look at what a difference it makes to you. They might not consciously know that something has changed, but maybe they feel it energetically. Maybe they feel a little more peaceful or relaxed around you. But also that what has the most impact really is for yourself because how much more free do you feel, right? How much more relaxed and calm do you feel? I mean,
Me
you're
and
doing
the
yourself a
people that
favor.
are the closest to me that are in my life, they're the ones that get benefits from it too. So it's like, and I believe, like in the past, my previous wife, I wish she didn't do that. I wanted her to change this. I wanted her to change that. And today with Lisa, I support everything she wants to do.
And right.
Everything.
Oh,
I may not like it, but I still support it. And we can talk about how I feel and how she feels. And move forward because it's like, is it really important in the end? Like it isn't.
Yeah, you two are so beautiful together. You really are so genuine and so that is really love in the true sense of the word, because I like to think of love in a definition I've heard of being just that you take the other person as part of yourself,
Yeah.
So that means all of their needs and wants are as important as your own. And maybe it really is as simple as that because she is literally a part of you and you're big enough, you're thinking big enough to include the both of you. And that it's so beautiful. I mean, you're really inspiring a lot of people in the relationships, before the relationships, after the relationships. I mean, really an inspiration. The more work you do too, and the stronger you are together, it is so inspiring. I have to say, again, I probably
Well,
said it
and it's
already.
almost crazy. We met at a 7-day retreat, self-help retreat, and we were hands off and we had a couple dinners together and stuff like that. Well, for some reason, both of us thought it went till the Sunday and it ended on Saturday. And through the conversation of us realizing that, I just went, "Oh, I guess we're going for dinner tonight." That's how it
Yeah.
started. And neither one of us were
Yeah.
really looking for a partner.
Nope.
Uh,
Yeah.
but backtrack on one of the exercises, this gentleman it was a day after we had to write our hopes, dreams, and goals. And I finally got honest and admitted that I wanted a partner in my life. And
Oh,
this guy, Felipe, I believe he transformed my life completely because he asked me a question. And he goes, "What's your biggest hopes, dreams, and goal?" And I said, "I want a partner." And he goes, "Well, what are you going to say to her in the morning when you wake up?" And I said, "Well, I'll roll over and say, 'Hey, babe, I love you.'" He goes, "Why don't you try it a little bit different?" And I'm like, "How can you do that different?" He goes, "Why don't you roll over and say, 'Hey, babe, how can I love you today?'"
Mm.
And that way, from where I come from, I don't know much about love in the back because it's like how we get conditioned and, oh, I'm getting sex, so that's love. Well, that's not
yeah.
love. That's just sex.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so Lisa was able to help, and it was really uncomfortable at first. However, Lisa was able to teach me what she needed, and vice versa. She started asking me the same question. And then we started asking each other if we fulfilled our commitment for the day at the end of the day.
Mm.
Brilliant.
And but it's not my
Brilliant. I mean,
brilliance. It's just back to that I was in the right spot at the right moment and I heard this thing that somebody had to teach me.
And you
okay. Yeah.
implemented it. Yes.
Yeah. But that's you personally being open to learning
Yeah.
Yeah.
about doing something a new way. I mean, that's the first step. We have to be open to learning and changing. If we're not open, we never will. No one can ever make us
Mm,
really, truly
that's
deeply
actually
change.
not quite true.
Yeah, okay. Go
The,
on. Go on. I'm curious.
so that 7-day course at the end, of course, they had the big sell on for their next course, and it was cheap. Probably it was only like $800 or $600 or something for a 3-month course, and we both signed up for it. And I was fighting with the director from day one, and I look back and it was pretty where I was. Like I wasn't the only one that was having a problem with it, but I was the only one so boisterous about it. And I drove her nuts, and I didn't think it was down to 11 days, and they finally called me and said, "You've said a few times if we give you the money back, you'll leave the course." And so I called a friend that had quit the course, and he's like, "Scott, you got 11 days left. Finish the course." So I finished the course, and it was probably 6 months later, it's like I realized I got a little bit more of a voice.
Mhm.
Still needed some fine tuning. So here I was stubborn and I was belligerent. And trust me, I was, Lisa can confirm that. But right down to the end, the last weekend, they wanted everybody to close their eyes so they could hand gifts out. And it's like, I'm not closing my eyes. I refuse to close my eyes. And, but I also learned something like that. I was being true to myself because the way I felt like I was getting treated was wrong. However, I paid for this course And looking back, I probably got more growth out of that course than the other previous courses, or
Mm.
maybe just a different shift.
Sure. Well, yeah, that makes sense actually what you say because yeah, part of you didn't want to learn. Part of you was not open, but the fact that you were there, was at least showing that at least part of you was opening to learning, right? But
Yeah.
then what happened when you went there is that when you got to that retreat or to that course and those things started happening that made you have that reaction, that was exactly what needed to come up, right? That was exactly what needed to come up to be healed, because a lot of times healing is as simple as allowing ourselves to feel something, you
Hmm.
know, and maybe learning something also. But, like for you, it may have been kind of putting your foot down and saying, I won't be treated that way, and kind of showing yourself that you can trust yourself, that you can defend yourself when necessary, you can set a boundary, right? You know, that was probably part of your learning and some of the emotions, maybe the anger or the defensiveness, that maybe was something that needed to come up at that moment. And that I'm sure that was all part of your learning
Yeah.
process, that I think it definitely all worked together for sure. We have sometimes parts of ourselves that seem to be in conflict, even though, they kind of are both, or all of them are kind of trying to help us in some way, right? Like I mentioned before, like they are kind of trying to serve us in some way, one part of you wants to learn, and the other part of you wants to maintain your boundaries and protect yourself against, mistreatment. And you have both of those working together. Obviously dynamic, yes,
Yeah.
but it sounds like it worked out perfectly for you because you had the realizations that you had, and maybe you also learned to trust yourself in the process.
I think so.
I think so. And I think through all that, what felt like turmoil for him during that time, someone, me, saw beyond that turmoil and saw, the loving person within and didn't go anywhere. And I think that was important for him to see at the time as well.
Oh,
Um,
I bet.
yeah, yeah. Now,
Yeah, I
Yeah, just
can't
that
believe you put
unconditional
up with me.
acceptance.
yes.
Mm.
What's that, Scott?
Yeah.
I said, I can't believe you put up with me.
Like I said, I see right through you.
Oh. Yeah, that is one of the most healing things really is that unconditional acceptance, it's part of love, yes, but it's kind of a flavor of love that a lot of people feel like they're missing, just unconditional acceptance. And that's just, I mean, you two are a power team.
Well, that's like going back to what I said before. Everybody wants us to fit into their box rather than just be open for who we show up as.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of like
Mm.
society as a whole. You're
Yeah.
supposed to do this, and this. And like people look at me and Lisa at the life, and probably you as well. Are you crazy living that life, what you're doing? Like,
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and the less you care, not caring how someone thinks about you is different than not caring how they feel. Of course, we don't want them to feel hurt. We don't want them to, we don't want to hurt someone. We don't want to cause any kind of, we don't want to mistreat someone. But on the other hand, we do want to be ourselves, and we really actually should not care about how we're kind of being judged, because that stuff we don't need. Definitely don't need that,
Yeah,
and
it's not so
mhm, go ahead.
it is a little bit about not caring. However, how I look at it is being certain about what I want. And that's just
Yeah,
really what it comes down to.
and that's enough. It's
Yeah, having
enough.
that clarity and certainty.
Yeah, because the reason you know what you want is because you know yourself
Yeah.
well enough. You know, I mean, I didn't know what I wanted out of life, the first 3 decades of my life, I would
And
say at least,
and it's still a
and
growth, it's still growing, a growing journey too, right?
yes, definitely always a process of kind of getting to know yourself more because, it can be pretty mind expanding once you get far enough, but just kind of on the everyday level, even, not knowing ourselves and not knowing what we want can bring so many of us out into the wrong direction, or just to kind of where it kind of seems like we're in a loop, maybe we feel like we're wasting time, although that can't really be true. We're learning from everything, but I mean, I do remember the first time actually I asked myself what I really wanted. I was yeah, I was over 30 for sure. It was like around it was in the fourth decade of my life already. And I basically my life had kind of collapsed at that point. I lost my relationship, I lost my friends, I had lost my home and the country I was in. I was back at my parents' kitchen table and I was like, oh, I'm at ground zero. I have no idea what I'm going to do. And so finally, the first time I asked myself, what do I really want out of life? What do I want to do? What do I want? That was literally the first time I had asked myself that. And then the answer came. At that time, the answer was, oh, I want to go to Istanbul and I want to study consciousness. It's just that's what it was. And when I answered that, it was like I could feel sparkles in the air. It literally felt magical. I was like, that's what it feels like you know, to listen to my intuition, or maybe that's what it feels like to really discover myself. I don't know. I was so blocked off before that. And I did it. I took action on it. I went to Istanbul for about a year and I studied consciousness. I had insane experiences that changed my life forever. And it made me the person that I am now. So, yeah, whoever offense, please don't wait.
And, and
100%.
it's never too late. It's never too
Yeah,
late. Never.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Every day is a moment to change something in our
Yeah.
lives. Every day, what is it? Every day can be the first day of our lives. The first day of the rest of our lives. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. One way I was told you can look however you want to look at it. It can be your first day or it can be your last day. So how will you live it? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other big
It
part, go ahead, that I look at
no,
the
no, no.
saying is like yesterday, what's the point of dwelling over it? You cannot do anything about yesterday. And really, you can't really do anything about tomorrow. However, you can project tomorrow and do what you can do today, like sitting here having this amazing conversation.
Yeah. You can set an intention, but
Yeah.
all we have is the now,
Yeah,
the present moment. It really is the only thing that we have. And so that must mean that that is where all of our power lies to change, to be better, be happier, to learn more, that only the now. So yes, we have an intention for the future, and yes, we have wisdom from the past, but literally we do have no past and we have no future because we have only now. And as crazy as that sounds, kind of like a mind bender, in a way, but
it's not
it
really.
literally is true, you know?
Yeah, the when Scott was telling about the story or the experience he had with Felipe and asking how he can love me and vice versa. When you're talking about looking inside, that was one of the things I discovered, and I think it was during my second book, was I'm like, why am I not asking myself how I can love myself? And so literally looking in
Good,
the mirror, right? And going, how can I love you today? Like, and that was a big thing for me.
good for you. Good for you. Congratulations. That is one of the most important things anybody can do. Good for you. How long have we sometimes had to wait to do that?
Yeah.
Priceless. So priceless. We all need to do that. And some people think that they can't love themselves because of how they are or how they were in the past and all of this stuff. And none of that's true. You can love yourself no matter what situation you're in. Yeah. And you need to. You
Yeah.
need to have that compassion for yourself. You may be in a hard time, you may be struggling, but all of us are struggling. And the fact that you're still here, that you are so strong, that you're so strong that you're going through all these difficult things, and you're still here, and you're still continuing, you're still learning, you're still going on. You can only have admiration for yourself. You can only have compassion because if you don't, no one will, and it's got to start with you.
100%. 100%. Now,
Beautiful.
in when you had sent me in all that lovely, lovely stuff, your bio, you had mentioned you were a highly sensitive empath. I want to explore that a little bit with you before we let you go here, which is we're starting to wind up a little bit, but highly sensitive empath. I think a lot of people hear that word, but they don't quite understand what that entails.
Yeah, so that's two different things. So the high sensitivity and being an empath. And so the high sensitivity is an actual psychological category. Um, there's a thing called high sensitivity, and about 20% of the population has it, equal amounts in men and women. And this means that our neurons are wired in such a way that we receive more information constantly, um, than the other 80% of the population. So, it can take different forms, but it may mean you're more sensitive to sounds. It may mean you're more sensitive to light. It may mean social interactions are more taxing, or you could be an extrovert and still be highly sensitive, but it comes out in other ways. So it's interesting because once I learned I was highly sensitive, it made me understand a lot more about myself and kind of how I was reacting and how I was feeling. So that was very interesting to learn. Also, that I'm not only highly sensitive, but I'm also a high sensation seeking, highly sensitive, which is a subcategory, which means that I'm not kind of always wishing I was at home under the blankets, although I often do like to be just kind of, cozy and cuddled under the blankets or something. But I also love to explore new things. And so I'm out there traveling, out there kind of doing crazy stuff, maybe not always super smart, but having a good time in the end. And and so it's an interesting combination, it's kind of, I don't know. It's come to fruition in my life in different ways. I appreciate being that way, but I could not, for example, be like a race car driver or a jet pilot because I'm taking too much information in and I have to make decisions slower. Like I need to process more information. Yeah, like you. So I can't just, react as fast as some people, right? So that's the high sensitivity, and I can tell you have that as well. But the empath thing now is a different thing because it means that I'm really feeling energies and emotions. And so I've had that all my life. But I will make a distinction because I know a lot of us have that as well. There is the empath, and there is, let's say, let's call it clairsentience or some other word, because feeling energies and emotions is different than taking them on. And in the past, I was always taking it on. I was absorbing other people's emotions so much. I was like kind of going into their fields. I was feeling what they were feeling. That came from childhood, from growing up in a kind of an environment of like conflict, people fighting all the time. And so I became very, very empathic in that literal sense of the word, where I was absorbing people's emotions, taking it on, trying to guess what they wanted me to say to make them feel better, and in the process weighing myself down. So feeling what they were feeling means that, it kind of gets overwhelming and then it kind of layers and piles up. And then I maybe get depressed, for a year or two on end, and then maybe, kind of weighs myself down, that kind of thing. So that's sort of a more of an imbalanced empath type of person, which I was for many, many years. And then you have the person who does sense and perceive things, but they don't always take it on into their own energy field, into their own bodies, even. So once I learned about the difference, now I can clear out those external energies that I've picked up and let them go where they need to go, just let them go in, let them go out, let them go up, let them go down, out of my field. And then that'll happen regularly. So I probably do that at least once a day. But I allow the energies to move. Like like when we have that kind of empathic field, a lot of energies come in, but we allow them to move. So we're actually moving energies all the time without knowing it. And the thing is that the trick is to not identify with them, just let them go out, let them move where they need to go. It's kind of a service we're doing for humanity almost in a way. but not taking it on. We don't have to name it. We don't have to identify it. Just let it go, you know. So that's a crucial difference that I do want to mention because I hope I would consider myself less of an empath now and more of just a very sensitive, emotionally empathetic person that's a little bit different, you know. So it's for both of those qualities, you know, there's a more balanced and a less balanced side, I guess is all I want to say.
And can you kind of describe what you mean by letting it go through and then releasing it? Like, what would that like literally look like for you?
Okay, so very simple. Just, you know, when you're in a quiet moment, you can be out in the street, you can be in a supermarket. Probably you want to do it after you get out of the supermarket, but you just intend. You can say it out loud or you can say it just silently to yourself, you know, okay, I'm sending all everyone else's energies out of my body and field now. You know, take a breath, feel it and sense it just leaving. You know, you don't have, you just imagine it. Your imagination is very powerful. And, you know, people think imagination is not real. It's all real. You know, it's very powerful. You imagine, you intend, it just all goes. Sending everyone else's energies out of my body and field now. As strong and as confident as you can. You know, you're kind of a command you're giving.
Yeah,
That's it.
understand that. I love that.
That's
So it's about those words in your head, right? It's about the understanding and the visual.
we
Sometimes more visual, yeah.
we went and seen this
Yeah.
lady in Wahin. She's the miracle healer.
In
That's what she's
Thailand.
known as. If you Google the miracle healer of Thailand, she'll come up. And we
Oh,
came, I won't say friends, but we would stay after and chat with her. And she goes to us one day, she goes, I have to be completely centered for my clients or I can't help or I'm unable to help them. And she goes, sometimes I'll sit there and I'll close my eyes and I'll pretend I'm sitting at my computer desk and I'm hitting the delete button. Delete, 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 delete. Till so it's the same thing as you, just a different metaphor. So if one metaphor doesn't work, change it.
yeah, exactly. It's going to be different for each person. And what's important is that it means what it means to you, you know? So I'm going to kind of feel it as like a cloud that kind of extends out from on all sides. And I kind of feel it, like I feel it in my body when it leaves, you know? And then someone else is going to be hitting the delete button and someone else is going to do something else. Like it's always very unique to us,
Yeah.
but it is at least important that we do that. And not only if we're, you know, overly sensitive, you know, anyone probably would want to do that, something like that, because the more you get kind of the external noise out, the more you can tune into yourself. And obviously, if you're helping someone else, you know, the more you can connect to your source of information, your source of wisdom, you know. So also with yourself, you know, like I teach some of that before we go into healing the body with our intentions, because firstly, we have to get the noise out. And then we can have quiet and then we can listen in. Okay, what does my body need right now? You know, it's so much easier to do after you have cleared that stuff out. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so, I think, important to remind our audience and anyone maybe who connects with you as well is that you know, you're not going to get every answer in one course or one class or one day.
Yeah.
It's that it allows, like Scott said, it's that next baby step. It's that next baby step that lets you go on to another baby step or a big jump or whatever. So it's to do something though, because that, you know, it's that action that you tell your body, I'm doing something now. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's try it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yes, because yeah, it is about showing yourself, you know, that you're changing something. And the rest of you is going to get on board as well, you know, your mind and your body, you know, you're all going to get on board as well, but it is about having that intention. And when you have an intention, anything can happen. It really does start, well, I'm not going to point here because it's kind of everywhere, but you know, your heart also and everything. But it starts inside. And then, yeah, all I can say is that the intention is everything. So you're completely right. It's like also kind of how you mentioned the snowball effect. it's or the butterfly effect even, you want to create a tornado. Um, a little step can lead you onto a completely new path. And I think all of us have had that experience.
Yeah, so your course is called Talk to Your Cells, Activate Your
Yeah.
Self-Healing Power. So if our audience is interested in doing this with you, first of all, where do you hold it? And how can people get a hold of you to find out more?
Yeah, that's at my website. That's anapashyanti.com. And then under courses, you can find Talk to Yourselves. So yeah, it's pretty exciting to offer because I've been getting pretty good feedback. So I know it's helping people. So I'm pretty
Awesome.
I'm pretty excited. Yeah.
I'm assuming it's not online unless people would like to go to South America.
Yeah, it's online, so you can do it whenever you want. Yeah. Um, I have not yet started having people over for retreats yet. Maybe I might in the future. I don't know, but not quite yet. It's a little bit out of the way for most people.
It's a good adventure, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's been absolutely amazing talking with you, and I know our audience will totally enjoy and many will align with what you're talking about. And just looking at your backdrop is enough to, to invite anyone into your course. And we truly appreciate the conversation with you today, Anna. And we we know that your impression, you will have an impression, a positive impact on someone else today. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for the
Thanks.
opportunity. It is a joy, as I've said before, to be in the presence of the both of you because you really are an inspiration. So thank you very much as well. It was an honor.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And we like to do this too because this is something we've learned in Thailand. Thank you very much.
Quick question though, when you first started talking about your course, you said you like to, was it empower people or was it, I can't remember the word you used. I really liked it though.
Empower.
Yeah,
Probably I said empower, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for me it seems like what is missing the most
yeah,
across the world right now, empowerment. We all can feel a little bit more powerful just in our lives. It's not a imbalance of power like we have power over someone else. No, no, no. But we're not powerless to create change, to change our reality, to become who we want to become. And that's the key. It's empowering ourselves because I think once we have figured out that, a lot of the world's ills will be healed automatically.
And one of my true understandings, and I got this in my second book. So writing really does start to pull stuff out of you, is that you are worthy. You are worthy. I am worthy. We're worthy of having those needs met and to better ourselves, whatever that looks like.
100%.
Thank,
thanks
100%.
again,
thank you so
Anna.
much, Anna. Take care. Talk with you soon.
Thank you to the both of you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.